Welcome to the Chief's Garage. I'm Eugene. Thanks for stopping in. In this video, we're going to take a look at the assembly of the E7 heads. We've gone through everything we needed to prepare them for reassembly. We're going to use, and I'll show you in a video, the TrickFlow kit that we're going to put in this to change the valve springs, and we're going to do some reconditioning of the seats. So basically all we're going to do is go in and lap the seats in. As you'll see in the video, this is a set of heads that were original to the engine that we're putting them back on. They came in 1990 with the car, guys. And that's part of this whole build plan, is to reuse the original engine, its block, and cylinder heads. You know, back in the early 80s, in my second tour in the Navy, I worked in an engine shop, and for a gearhead, guys, it was just a mechanic's paradise. It was a full working engine shop, had everything you could possibly imagine. We could do cylinder heads. We had, you know, ultrasonic tanks. We had a dyno cell. We had all the things that you would use. And I spent days and days working on cylinder heads. I had learned some reconditioning of valves and seats in shop in school, but it was when I got to this shop in Pearl Harbor that I really got to understand cylinder heads and really got to get my hands deep into, you know, not only just putting them together, but completely recondition them. Where we do seats, we do valves, you name it, we could do any of the process. We had a full machine shop, sandblast shop. We had basically everything at your disposal that you could possibly think of to build engines, and it's one of the places where I achieved my journeyman in engine building. So come along with me. We're going to start with these E7 heads, and I'll show you how to lap them in. I'm going to show you tools that you'll need to do that. And we're also going to get into a portion of the reassembly. I don't want this video to be super long, so stick with me. This is what we've done. Now that we've finished all of our modifications to the heads that we want to do with improving the flow, our next step is to lap in the valves. Now we know that these heads were already done about 2,000 miles ago, and so I'm expecting that we can get through these heads with just lapping them. They're E7s, guys. If they require more than lapping, then we'd have to consider whether we would want to spend any money on them. It's just really not worth it. And one of the things that I'll tell you before we get into what materials I'm going to use to do this is, if your cylinder's heads need a valve job, you can't lap them into a valve job. If there's material that really needs to be removed in order for your valve seats or your valves themselves to mate correctly, you won't be able to do that by lapping. You'll lap forever and you'll still have pits and things you can't remove. One of the things that I would tell you, and as we look at the materials I'm going to use to do this, for about $15 you can go out and buy a kit, which will come with a couple of different lapping compounds. This one has a coarse grit that we probably won't use, and it also has a fine grade that we're definitely going to use. Along with that, you're going to need lapping sticks. This is a really good one, and I would recommend that if you're going to have one of these, that you get one of these types. It's just easier to use. Some of the cheaper kits will come with one that kind of looks like this, and you can get away with this. I mean, you're only going to do it one time. Just buy yourself a $20 kit and get it done. You're also going to need to clean your valve guide. So you need a little small brush like this and some cleaner that you can spray on it. And you want to make sure that the valve guides are very clean before you install the valves and start to do anything. You don't want to score the valves or in that process. You'll need some kind of marker because you will want to mark the valves. Make sure they go back exactly in the cylinder, and whether it's exhaust or intake, in their correct locations after you've already finished lapping them. They need to go back in the same place you lapped them to. You need a way to determine where you are in your lapping process. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could use a giant marker, and you can mark the seats and the valves, and then of course lap them, and it'll show you where you've lapped. Or you can use some layout fluid. This brand's Dicam, and I have it, so we're going to use that. But you could do this with a large, marker to be able to mark it, because as you start to lap the seats, you want to see where you are. You'll need some kind of brush. This is just cheap acid brush. You can buy these at Harbor Freight, and you'll need them to apply your lapping compound. And also, I use Prussian blue. Now, Prussian blue is non-drying. It's a blue, almost grease type, and you'll see this when we get into it. I use this because after you're done lapping, when you're lapping the valve and you're rotating it back and forth, it doesn't really give you a complete, true impression of how the valve will mesh with the seat. That's what we use Prussian blue for. We put Prussian blue on the seats. Tap it, don't twist it, tap it, and then open it, and you can take a look at it and give you a clear impression of how one mates with the other. I use alcohol. This is just denatured alcohol in a spray bottle. This is so you can clean up your layout fluid or in the process. It's grindy, gritty. There's a lot of dirt as you go along, and to do that, I usually spray it with some denatured alcohol. And you'll need to lubricate your valve stems when you're doing this. So I get them all brushed and cleaned up, clean the stems, add a little bit of this just regular 10W30 is actually a break-in oil from Royal Purple in here. It doesn't matter. As long as you lubricate the stem before you put it in, it will be no issue. So these are all the basic tools that you need. Anyone can do this. This is probably one of the simplest processes. You'll probably have more trouble getting the valves springs off than anything else, which I would recommend you go to your local AutoZone or Advanced Auto, rent a spring compressor if you don't own one, so that you could disassemble it. Once you've inspected the valves and determined that they're good and that you can lap them and get away with this, then here's your process. On to the next step. Okay, so we're ready to do our intake valve. I'm gonna show you guys where I am right now. I've already did the exhaust valve. I numbered my heads so that I could put things back the way that they originally were. This was the number 5 cylinder when we disassembled the engine. And so of course you see the exhaust valve is marked with number 5. I've already done this valve, and so I'll kind of show you what I've done here. If you look really closely here, you can see that the bluing is on the valve itself. In that shiny piece you see around there, that is where I've actually lapped this in to make it match the seat that's in the inside of the head. And if you look in the head, you'll see the same thing, that these two are now mated and they are a pair. One of the ways that we do this is we use a little layout fluid, and I'm gonna put a little layout fluid on here, and this is just Dicam, and this is a dispenser, so it makes it easy. And we rub some of that around in there, and this is kind of light. It is alcohol based, so we need to let it dry for a second. And we're going to do the same thing to the valve here. Just going to put a little bit on there like that, and so hopefully that you guys can see that. I don't have a cameraman. I'm kind of a one-man band here, so but we need that to dry. And it dries pretty quick. Once they're both dry, we're going to take some lapping compound. And it doesn't take very much. We're just going to take some lapping compound. We're going to dab that all around on the face of the valve. Just like that. I've already cleaned the valve guide with a brush, and I said before we use a brush to clean that. I've already cleaned it. It's perfectly clean inside, and we're going to put a little spot of oil on this so we get the valve inside of the guide and get that lubricated a little bit. So we'll put that in there like this, and we grab our lapping stick and stick it to the valve like that, and we're going to rotate it back and forth and get it to stick on there. And you can hear that sound. I'm lifting it up, turning it about a quarter of a turn, putting it back in, lap it, lift it up, turn it a quarter turn, and as it grinds, you're going to hear the sound get lighter and lighter and lighter as it breaks down the grinding compound. And it's not going to take that much. And every time I do that, you hear it gets louder. I grind it, you hear it get lighter. That's our process. Okay, so you got an idea of what we're doing to be able to get there. Our next step in this is we take it out, we wipe everything down, and we try to take a look and see where we are, where it actually sits. This one, if you can look really close here, you can see we're out near the edge. I still have a little blue margin that's right there at the edge, but we would want this to be more toward the center. I can't control that. The only way you can change that is to recut the seat to make it move out farther on the valve. Now we take out all of our grinding compound and we go in and take a look. And that's going to show us where our contact is on the inside of the seat itself. And I can see a clear margin all the way around where this valve is seating. Now this cylinder head had a 3 angle valve job, and I can see all 3 angles. I'm on the center one. There's a back cut, there's a back cut, there's a center. Our valve is in contact all the way around. We can continue to lap this a little bit and it'll probably get us a little closer, but no matter how much we lap this, we can't change where this valve surface is touching the seat. You can only change that by cutting the seat. Now, allowable? Sure, yeah, you could use that. It's at the outer edge. This is cooler. It's not the exhaust valve. The exhaust valve is critical. It needs to be in the center of your exhaust valve. And if it's not, then you need to take your heads to a professional and have them cut it. Now, because your intake valves have a cooler charge, having this a little bit out to the edge doesn't really concern me that much because it's not taking a whole bunch of heat like it would be if we were on the exhaust valve. So this is what we do with that. Now, the next step, I'm going to tell you guys, you need to wear gloves because if you get Prussian blue on your skin, you know, it doesn't come off for weeks. It really does dye your skin. And so when you use Prussian blue to validate where you are on your seat, you definitely want to wear gloves. And it does come off with alcohol. You can use alcohol to clean that all up. You can clean all of this up with alcohol. But that's my process. And so I'm not going to put you guys through watching me lap, another, 7 cylinders. But that's the process. And as you can see, it doesn't take very long to get to where we want to be. But in that same process, if you're lapping it and you're still seeing pits on either the valve itself or on the valve seat, you can't lap that out. You can lap it forever. We're not really very much material here. All we're really doing is mating the 2 surfaces together. So you'll have to make a determination from there whether you need to go to a machine shop or whether that's worth it. Now, I had these heads done probably 8 years ago, and it cost $400 because I paid cash, and I always pay the machine shop in cash. It's just one of my things. If you were going to take a set of E7 heads and you're going to pay $450, $500 for them to recondition them, I tell you, your money's best spent on something else, a cheap set of aluminums or something. But I wouldn't spend money on these. And if in this process I had to do anything except change the springs, I wouldn't use these at all. Now, this is a nostalgia build. These are the original heads to the engine that they're going back on. And that's one of the reasons that we're going through what we're going through. Or if you were restoring something that was really original and you know, you needed to use iron heads, this would be the way you go. But like I'm saying, we're going to lap all of these through. Hopefully we don't run into any issues that you know, tell me that we should probably go to a machine shop. If we get there, then we'll have to back up and punt. But I'm still stuck to where I was, that these heads are original to our plan, and we're going to try to use them. We're doing a quick inventory of our TrickFlow valve springs that we're going to use with this. Guys, I would tell you that this is one of those times when, although we don't always read instructions, this time you'll want to read the instructions. This kit in itself is TrickFlow's 2500100. You can use this kit with stock E7 heads. You can use it with GT40s, and you can use it with the GT40Ps. What you'll find inside of the box is 16 springs. So you're going to get all of the springs that you need for everything. You're going to have retainers for your intake and retainers for your exhaust. You want to be specific to read the instructions because your retainers are not the same for the intake and the exhaust. You will have all the keepers, and the keepers are exactly the same. It comes with also all of your valve seals, and it comes with a shim kit. The shim kit is basically you have some 15,000 shims, and it says that they're 30, but when I measure them, they come up to about 33, 35, depends on which one you use. And so, of course, it comes with this little measuring tool, which measures out to be 1 inch 800 thousandths. Its whole purpose is to set your valve spring height, and we're going to do that when we get prepared to do this. I'm going to show you how you can use this. You won't even need a feeler gauge. You can do this with basically just this graduated tool, and I measured it. It is exactly what they say it is, 1 inch 800 thousandths, and it tells you that your shim kit can be within, you know, 15 thousandths, plus or minus 15 thousandths when you're setting this all up. You're going to have a couple of options to be able to get your valve height setting. For some, you can use a telescopic gauge. If you have one of these, basically you'll put it between the seat and your retainer. You'll let this out and get your adjustment between it. When you lock it off, then you can use something like a vernier caliper or something, whatever you have, to measure this, and it'll tell you where you are when it comes to your height, and then of course you'd shim to make your adjustment. If you have an actual seat adjustment tool like this, and these are relatively inexpensive, I'll see if I can find a part number for this and show you how this is used. Basically, all you do is put it on the cylinder head, and you would turn this out until you get your graduations, and you would know your seat height. Guys, this makes it much easier, and it's much more accurate. This one is within a thousandths, which is, you know, closer than you have to be, especially when TrickFlow is telling you you can be at 1.8 plus or minus 15. So the next step we'll do here is, you'll see me start putting this all together. Got the heads all lapped in. That's all done. I want to finish cleaning them and get paint on them before we do this, because once we install the springs, we're going to call the cylinder heads done. So for anyone who's trying to figure out, you know, to do your own exhaust, to do your own cylinder heads, if you go back and watch the previous video and portions of this one, I'm showing you how you can do them at home. It doesn't take a lot of fancy tools. Guys, you can do this. I've been fiddling around with this camera for a few, trying to figure out how to get you guys a shot of what I'm doing here. When you buy your valve spring upgrade kit, it's going to come with a probe, a little probe that looks like this, and it's exactly 1 inch 800 thousandths. And as you can see, I've already put the intake valve into the head, and I've got the retainer on and it's being held in place with the locks. I'm supporting this valve from the bottom with it. It's just set up so that you guys can kind of get an idea of if you're doing this, how to do it. One of the ways is through the kit, using the actual probe that it gives you. And what you're supposed to do with this is, I'm using a pair of vice grips so I can get my fat fingers out of the way. You're supposed to set this on the base of the head and you put it underneath the retainer. And this is your measuring, because we're trying to get these valve springs set to 1 inch 800 thousandths plus or minus 15. Now, when I do this, I can feel that it's not touching the retainer. That means that it needs shims in it. Now, you have an option here. You can take a set of feeler gauges and put feeler gauges between this and figure out what size shims you need. Or you can actually use the shims themselves. And I've got a couple of them here on the workbench. And I've already measured this, so I know what it needs. This one's about, 30 thousandths, 33 thousandths, and this one's 15. So if I take the two of them and I put them together, and we're gonna do this, and I put the probe back here and put it underneath, then I can just use the shims themselves, and you see that fits in there tight. So that tells me that all I really need to do is take these two shims, put them at the base. One of these tells you it has to be up. I always like to put the solid metal one down first. And guys, I'm going to tell you, when you're doing this, if you came out very close to 1 inch 800 thousandths with no shims, put a 15,000 shim at the bottom. You don't want the spring to set directly on the cast iron. So I would still put a 15,000 shim. If it was perfect, I'd put a 15,000 shim. But this is how you do it with what came in the kit. Now, I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to use this device. Now, this device, and I know this is kind of close, may make it a little hard, but this is basically a micrometer. So to use this, what we do is, see if we can get this off. There we go. See, I pulled up on it tight to make sure the readings were correct. So what we do with this is take the retainer off. We set the micrometer on, and we need to get it in a position to where we can see the readings. So let me do this so I can find the mark on it. All right, so that's going to get it over here near the camera. And basically what we do is we drop the retainer in, then we put in the keepers. Pull up on the retainer to lock the keepers in, and then we expand this by turning it. We're going to turn this all the way up until it's tight. Now that's tight. Now all I need to do is read the graduations. Let me see if I can get this around to where you guys can see it. And with it all the way tight, it looks like it reads 47 thousandths more than 1.8, which is the height. So I need to add 47 thousand shim, which is what we just proved by putting the 33 and the 15 together. So that's basically how it works. As you can see, I don't have any of the valve seals on yet. It does come with Viton valve seals that you can press on with a 12 millimeter socket. You can go out and buy the $40 tool to press them on. But if you put oil on them and put them on, that's pretty much all there is to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse and repeat and do this for all of the valves. I know this is the #1 cylinder. This valve and this setup needs to go back in the same spot. And when I'm done setting them all up and putting it all back together, you'll see that our heads are going to be pretty much done. I've already got a nice coat of New Ford gray on them, put in the core plugs, and got that all set. And I put some anaerobic sealer around those so that it would be there. And we're going to go in and finish putting the rest of the valves in. Going to compress these with spring compressor. This is the #1 cylinder when it goes on the engine, so I'm going to not put the real springs on here. I'm going to put TrickFlow checker springs, because we've got some things we need to do once the engine goes together, so it won't get its permanent springs just yet. But that's basically how we put this all back together, guys. And so, guys, there you have it. As you can see, heads are all put back together. I did use a TrickFlow kit to do that. Got it all put back together, and they're ready to go onto the engines. So the next thing I'm going to do is I like to spray them. I don't use WD-40. I'm going to use a very light machine oil, some liquid wrench. I'm going to spray them all down, wrap them in saran wrap. We're not ready to assemble this. This is July, so there's lots of humidity out there, guys. We want to make sure that we keep the rust at bay. I would tell you guys, anyone who's thinking about doing this, you can see lots of different forums, ChatGPT, which I wouldn't recommend, but there are many forums on YouTube and other places. There are mechanics, people in your local car clubs that can help you to get your heads together. If you don't have that astronomical budget that you see, which is just a misnomer when you watch, so many guys that have Fox bodies that have, $60,000, $70,000 in their build, and most of us don't live there, especially not me. So we use what we have. We take the skills we have, take what we have, and turn it into something that we can be proud of. Then we take it out and we drive it, and it's reliable, and we enjoy it. And use that extra few dollars you have to take, your honey out for a drive in a dinner or something like that. I've really, had a lot of fun doing this. It's a skill that I haven't been using a lot, since my military days. But I appreciate you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. But most of all, guys, drop a comment, ask questions. I couldn't get too deep into detail here because it would just make the video super long. And that is one of the things I don't want to do. I want to be able to come to you guys, talk to you about what it is that I do and how I do it in my little 2-car garage without taking all of your time up. So at the end of the day, make something that's reliable, make it yours, get out there and build something.